A24 does it again. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way because I know Brian is in love with A24 as a studio, just like me and Dustin are. So let's
Yeah,
talk about the new A24 horror movie, Heretic. I think you were on board with this with me. I think we were in this together. We were excited to see this one. Just
absolutely.
from the trailer, it being an A24 movie, and I'm not trying to sound like pretentious or joke around. I just appreciate original stories and unique stories that have some meaning, some feeling to it. And I think Heretic delivered. Just my general quick thoughts before we get into our pros and negatives. I have very little to complain about. Uh, if we ever do another top 5, top 10 A24 horror performance list, Mr. Hugh Grant as Mr. Reed is going to make that list. I mentioned in my little TikTok video, I was not aware of this man's game. This
Yeah.
man had me captivated from the start to the end. He was so damn good. Hugh Grant killed it. And so did sister Sophie Thatcher, not Sister Thatcher. I was reading it wrong off of IMDb. And Chloe East as Sister Paxton. They did great as well. I thought they had great chemistry. They bounced well off of each other. Yeah, I think this is a phenomenal movie. You need to go see in theaters. Go see it in the best quality you can afford, Dolby Digital, whatever Regal or CMX, the others offer. I saw it in Dolby Digital at AMC. This movie was fantastic, if you ask me. It's one of my, it's probably top 3 to 5 for horror of this year for me. Closer to 3 than 5.
Yeah, we talked about at the end of the year getting together and making a little show because you and I have seen so many movies in the theater this year. Um, I'm really gonna have to. My top five really has like 15 movies in it right now, so it's gonna be tough. But I think this one's probably up there. Hugh Grant, you mentioned, so good. Which I've always thought he's a phenomenal actor. Anyway, like he's in a movie that I absolutely love called About a Boy. Um, he's in Love Actually. This is a different kind of movie than I'm used to seeing him in. Like most of the movies that I'm familiar with Hugh Grant are, rom coms. They're dramas. They're chick flicks. He
Yeah.
freaking killed it. Sophie
Scary.
Thatcher, yeah, he's so unnerving because he's still charming Hugh Grant, and that's what makes it even more creepy. Um, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, you mentioned, they knocked it out of the park. I'm unfamiliar with those two ladies' games. Um, I know that Sophie Thatcher was in The Boogeyman, which I didn't care for. She
Same.
was the FX artist in Maxine. That's a small role. Chloe East, she's I'm not familiar with her at all, but they really played off each other well. Their chemistry was incredible, and especially Chloe, I think she really nailed that sweet, innocent, ever optimistic Mormon girl. Um, Another thing. Oh, sorry, we're not into pros and cons yet. Yeah, overall general thoughts. I loved it. I loved it. Go see it, like you said. Support cinema. Now, before we get into pros and cons, are you wanting to do spoilers on this since it is brand new, or are you wanting to keep it kind of vague? Because I can go either way. Pause.
I say let's spoil it.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, spoiler alert. Warning now. So if you haven't seen it, turn this off. Go see it. Come back. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Our pros, the acting, the shots, the camera work. I mean, I could talk all day about the pros of this movie. Like I have very few complaints. I'm just going to reiterate Hugh Grant. Like I don't think I've seen anything he's been in. I may have
Really?
seen some of the chick flicks, like bits and pieces of it back in the day, but like sat down and remember watching them. No, I was completely blown away by Hugh Grant. Sophie
Hmm.
Thatcher, like you mentioned, she was in Maxine as well. I thought she was fine in her little FX role. Just a nice little cameo. Chloe East, fantastic as Sister Paxton. Uh, I like how at the end of the movie they kind of give her like a little character arc of how she's really been paying attention to everything and how she hasn't missed out on anything. I do have
Mm-hmm.
some complaints about that at the end, honestly, but the acting was phenomenal. That house, creepy as hell. The dungeons downstairs, creepy as hell. And what I really appreciate the most about this movie is how suspenseful, how tense it was. I don't know about you and your viewing experience, but I was legitimately like creeped out and suspense in my chair the whole time, like watching it. Like I was legitimately kind of freaked out and scared. And the subject matter, like this could be hit and miss for some people, I'm sure, but it talks about religion and not just Christianity. It talks about Judaism, Muslim, like all kind of different religion. And I like at the very end how Hughes or Mr. Reed's like, what religion really is just about control. And I thought that was really powerful. Dustin, what did you think? Because I thought the story was just the strongest part, really.
Yeah, the fact that this movie basically takes place in a house, the entirety, the entirety of the
Mm-hmm.
movie basically takes place in a house. We get some shots outside the house, but really the meat and bones is in this house. And for that to happen, you have to have a strong story and strong acting. The acting was incredible. Hugh Grant, I can't give him enough credit for. Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, we've already spoken on how great they were. Also, shout out to Topher Grace. I did not realize that was Eric Foreman as the elder. Like that's I didn't recognize him. They did a great job with his wig and his costume because I didn't realize that was him. But
That's
I,
Venom.
huh?
That's Venom
Venom.
from
It
back in
is
the. It
Venom.
wasn't he Venom from Sam
Yeah,
Raimi Spider-Man
yeah,
movies?
yeah, yeah. I was thinking of the most recent Venom trilogy, which I know you've seen. But
Loved him.
but no, you're right. It was so creepy and unnerving. He had that leak in the ceiling that every time the water dropped, it's just like it almost sends chills up your spine. Um, I thought that so it would be easy to just take away from the trailer that this is going to be a guy who traps these two girls in his house and is going to turn it into some religious jigsaw game. But that's not what it is. And I thought they did a great job of keeping me suspense. In suspense. I was trying to figure out his next move. Like, well, okay, what is his end game here? And I loved like you said, Sister Paxton. She was really more observant than what she led on to be, and she was smarter than what we gave her credit for. I feel like, and so I thought that was great. And then the twists when she figured out the twist. It's like, oh, okay, like it worked for me. It wasn't one of those twists like I saw coming, but
Yeah,
in hindsight, yeah, it's probably predictable. But it's still the story was strong enough to make it work, and I really love at the end. Did any of that happen, in your opinion? Did Sister Barnes resurrect and kill him, or was she dead already? Did Sister Paxton die? Because the only reason I say that is because she said she wanted to come back as a butterfly. And that closing shot we see is butterfly lands on her hand, but it's not really there. So was she dead all along? Had she died from being stabbed in the gut? I think that's a good open ending. I don't know that that's even a theory. That's just a possibility that I considered.
I
Um,
like that though. I didn't think about it. I took the ending literally.
yeah, and that's possible. The only reason it made me kind of question it is the butterfly on her hand and then it disappeared. So, because she said earlier she wanted to be a butterfly, she'd come back and land on people's hands specifically to know that that's her. Um, yeah, the cinematography you mentioned, there's some shots that the camera draws really close to Mr. Reed's face, and I thought it was just so effective
Oh
because
yeah,
he seems like such a nice, charming guy, but something about he's not. He has some evil intentions here, and the close up shots just made it so much more effective. I really liked pretty much everything about this movie.
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up about the camera work because there were a lot of close ups on like Sophie Thatcher, Sister Barnes as well, like showing her emotion, the tears
Mm-hmm.
running down her face. It was all really good. Yeah, I really like.
And
I mean, what are my cons? Pretty much all of it. you know, I mean, honestly, that's pretty
your
much
cons?
like. Oh no, not my cons, my pros.
Oh,
Sorry,
I thought you were joking, but I was like, whoa.
no, I just misspoke. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
pretty much all my pros are everything. Like, I pretty much loved
And
every bit of this movie. And like you mentioned, Hugh Grant was witty, funny, charming, and he I legitimately laughed a few times during this movie
yeah,
because it's like he's building up like something super scary, then it's just like he whips out a fucking old Monopoly game or something like that.
yeah.
It was
Brings up
amazing.
Monopoly. He quotes Lana Del Rey. He mentions Radiohead.
Yeah,
Like, it's like I love the pop culture references in the movie. Their little back and forth about fast food I thought was super entertaining. In
yeah,
his comparisons of that's what he wanted. He wanted a Whopper and he wanted a McNugget and he was just trying to find the perfect religion and it all tied together. I feel like there was no wasted motion in this movie. Everything
Yeah.
served a purpose. Every bit of dialogue served a purpose, and it all tied together nicely.
Yeah, but I got to complain about that. Burger King ain't nobody's favorite fast food. Let's be real here. Come on
Hey,
now.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When I don't know what it is, but when I've had a night out and I've drank, drank enough to fill a lake, the next day something about a Whopper just goes crazy. That's like my go-to. I wouldn't say hungover food, but that's like my go-to come back to life food is a Whopper.
Fair enough. Let's jump into our cons. I'll kick us off. Listen, I have very few cons, but I do have some things I nitpick a little bit. At the end, you kind of get the tropey horror movie thing. And honestly, your interpretation may change. If that's like what actually happened, I might change my feelings on that. But Sophie Thatcher kind of gets Mr. Reed cuts her in the throat with a box cutter. And personally, I can believe that she survived it. I don't know if the cut was deep enough. And, how can I critique that when I'm a huge fan of the first Saw movie and Danny Glover gets a very, very nasty cut to his throat by Jigsaw and he survived it? I
That's
could
Danny
buy him
Glover, though.
surviving.
That's Danny Glover.
Fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I'm just saying, I can buy that she survived. But they show her like laying there the whole time, not moving. Then right at the end, when Mr. Reed's about to kill Sister Paxton, she comes back to life and saves her.
Yeah.
A little bit tropey, a little bit of a nitpick. I think honestly my biggest nitpick though is Sister Paxton being as resourceful as she is and all knowing and not being all knowing earlier. Like if you notice this stuff, why not tell Sister Barnes this stuff? Like you notice his hair was wet after going outside. You noticed like the possibility of swapping two people out. Why didn't you tell her that stuff too?
Yeah.
Like that is kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of the show, Jenny. We were chit chatting about the movie because she saw it the other night as well. She kind of felt the same way about the tropey ending with Sophie Thatcher standing up and saving her, but she kind of wondered if that was like a religious example of like being resurrected, like Jesus and all that. I thought that's another interesting theory as well. But those are my two biggest cons, really. Like I don't have a problem with the runtime, anything like that. Just the kind of a tropey ending with the kill. And why didn't Sister Paxton tell Sister Barnes the stuff she noticed earlier? Because they're in this together in this kind of game. I feel like you should kind of say what you're noticing.
So cons for me are very minimal and nitpicky as well. One of the biggest ones was, they're reaching under the door, pulling this rug to her so they can get the matches over to her. Why are they moving so slow? Why are they pulling it just like a centimeter at a time? You know he's in the other room. Yank that thing, get the matches over to you, and get a move on. Another one is, it's clear that he's a threat. You're in danger. Why wait until the password of magic underwear?
Yeah.
Stab him in the throat. Get out of there. Now I do think it was funny magic underwear because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Mormon religion, but they do have to wear specific undergarments. I worked with a Mormon at one of my last jobs, and he told us about them one day. It blew my mind. They have to wear these specific tidy whities that they can only purchase from the church, and they're only allowed to take them off during like athletic activities or something where they're going to be sweating a lot, during sex and during the shower. Like other than that, they have to wear these specific underwear. So we
Oh
called it
wow.
magic underwear. So when he said that, that was kind of funny to me. But yeah, why wait for that? Why I feel like they were too. I feel like they were too reluctant to get the action moving. Like you got to try to find an escape route. You're in danger here, and especially once he cuts old girl's throat, like the other girl, I feel like she should have been trying to make a run for it more, trying to physically fight back. And I don't, who knows what you would do? Fight or flight kicks in, and
That's what I'm saying though. Talk to each other. It's
yeah,
frustrating.
communication was, they pissed down their legs. But um, other than that, I've really been racking my brain for all day trying to figure out what the bigger cons would be, and I can't really find any.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't have many cons at all. This is one of those movies like we've talked about where I had really high expectations and not only were they met, they were exceeded. This movie sat with me for a few days, honestly. Like very few movies these days just sit with me for days like The Witch did. Uh The Shining, the first time I watched it, like I know I was kind of dreading watching The Shining because I saw how long the runtime was and blah blah blah. But after I got done, and like it sat with me. This movie sat with me for a couple of days. I was so unnerved by Mr. Reed, the context of the movie, and I know, like I mentioned in my little TikTok video, Neon is pushing really hard for Nick Cage to win Best Actor. He better hope he's not going up against Hugh Grant and Mr. Reed because I'm sorry, Mr. Reed was way scarier and the performance was just way better to me. Like that,
Yeah,
that was phenomenal.
yeah. No, I completely agree. Shout out to Scott Beck and Brian Woods as well. They wrote
Beck
the
and
movie.
Woods. Yep.
Beck and Woods. They wrote the movie, and Beck wrote A Quiet Place, the screenplay for A Quiet Place. Um, Woods, which I guess Woods worked with him on that as well, and they both wrote the Boogeyman. Let me tell you something right now. Boogeyman is not anywhere near as good as this movie. So
Mm-mm.
that one really disappointed me, and I think it may have tempered my expectations a little bit going into this one. But all those concerns I have were put to bed really early in this one.
Yeah, I can't remember who the Boogeyman was from, but this one had that A24 logo on it. They weren't gonna let them put out no malarkey, so they made them step their game up for this one.
Boogeyman came out last year. It was a Stephen King adaptation, and David Dastmalchian's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably said that wrong. It just I wanted it to be good, but it was a PG-13 movie, and it was one of those PG-13 movies that really feel like a PG-13 movie. So I didn't
Yeah,
really
I've,
care
I've
for it.
seen it. It wasn't that great. I remember it was very forgettable, very formulaic. But yeah, they won me back with this one. Dustin, you got any final thoughts? I think me and you both kind of agree. The movie just kicks ass, and there's not much wrong with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, support cinema, and if you made it this far and you haven't supported cinema by going to see this, shame on you. Because actually, you know what? Even with these spoilers, it's still such a great movie. Go see it. Go see it again. Um, yeah, that's all I got.
Yep, I think A24 and Neon have done a great job of support. Introducing some new ideas, and IFC Film. Shout out to them as well. Those three studios are not the biggest in the world. They're not the Universals, the what else? Blumhouses. They're not those caliber.
Lionsgate.
Just size. Lionsgate. They're kind of falling apart at this point.
Yeah, they are.
But I mean, just from like a financial standpoint, they're not on Universal's level, stuff like that,
Right.
Paramount. But they're putting out better content to me. Like I would rather watch a $1 million budget A24 movie than $100 million Universal at this point. That's just me though. Uh, Been a great year of cinema. I'm looking forward to me and you, and if Brian or Mike joins us, crunching these numbers for the top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be really hard. It's been a good year because number 10 is. I mean, for me, it's probably gonna be like a 8 rating kind of movie, a 4 out of 5,
Yeah.
4.5 out of 5 kind of movie. That's how
What
good this year's been.
what a year it's been. We both gave this one 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I'm kind of a tougher critic. I'll admit that. And so I saw your 4.5 before I went and saw the movie, and I was like, oh, this is probably going to be one of those he likes a little bit more than me. But I was still expecting probably in a 4 range. But honestly, this one's really close to a 5. If I, I,
Yeah,
I think the story, I can't really point out anything that I wanted more to make it a 5. It's just when you know a 5, you know it, and this one's really close.
yeah. And I put like right at the very beginning of my rating, this could end up being a 5. I might go edit this joint. And hell, I saw Godzilla -1 a couple
Yeah.
like last week too. I saw Godzilla -1 on Monday, this movie on Thursday, and then I saw Anora on Saturday.
What a
What a
week.
week of what a week of film.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, what a
Yeah.
week.
It's incredible. So,
All right, we appreciate y'all listening in. Go see Heretic ASAP. Even if you saw the spoilers, just the performances, the atmosphere, it's worth it still. We appreciate y'all listening.